Yeah, goodbye.
Hey guys. You're on air. And I am calling the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Catherine, I am calling the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Thank you, dear. First order of business is election of officers because we're in a new year. So Henry and I have talked and we're happy to continue with our positions. Anybody want to step up and take over? I wasn't expecting. So, and we certainly hope Linda will be willing to be reelected as secretary.
Oh, I thought that my position was valid till 2025. Or at least it says that on the.
Yeah, but we have to get reelect officers every year.
Oh. Well, this would be my final year, I think, because I'm just trying to like pull away a little bit from responsibilities, so, yeah.
But this year's okay. That's all you're signing up for is this year.
Yeah.
And there's a constitutional provision against making you stick with it when you're not ready.
Wonderful note taker. I'd hate to even think of losing him because
Oh,
She does the
I don't know
job
who else can do it.
no,
rather well, I might add, you know.
are you giving us a warning that you might not re-up?
I think this will be my last year go around till 2025, like June 2025.
Okay. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, well, you know, I had some health issues and I've had some health issues.
You're entitled.
Yeah.
We just have to absorb it. So, I'd like to nominate Linda as secretary.
Second,
All in favor?
secretary.
We're on.
We're voting. Oh, you're not voting, sorry.
Yes,
I know my place.
all right.
But you keep trying.
So we need nominations.
I nominate Sandra for chair of the session.
I second that.
No discussions, all in favor?
I'm abstaining.
And I nominate
Vote for yourself.
Anne for vice chair.
I second it.
No, I'll vote for myself.
All right, done. Now, any adjustments? Sorry,
Question, who's our other member? Who's missing?
we have a gap. We have a vacancy.
We still have seven, you don't have seven.
We have 6.
I was thinking you had.
Well, with you here, it's 7, but you don't get to vote. Oh. The opportunity is open for you to change that, but I don't expect you to. So. Any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Approval of the June 12th minutes. Which you all would have received this weekend, I think.
I make a motion to accept it as presented.
Don't have any changes.
Okay, second.
Right, second.
Yeah, second.
All in favor? Done. Thank you, Linda. All right. Old business. Birthday cleanup day.
Sandra and I got together, I put together kind of a bullet list and she made some additions to it. And the biggest thing that we need to work on between now and then is how to get the word out. We've established the beginning of the list on who we want to try to get in touch with in various methods. What I'm really open is that the next meeting, we can present what our publicity campaign essentially is going to be. A lot of what we're looking at is the fact that last year, the reason we got any trash at all really is people did it kind of the day before and they brought it in on the actual Saturday. We're going to try to capitalize on that. That's been discussed before. And we're just trying to come up with the logistics of it. How the pickup gets done, trying to increase volunteers and get somebody else with a truck involved in it, especially if we have a dispersed place to pick them, place to pick them up, things like that. So those are the things that we're thinking of right now.
Well, to back up, sorry.
I know, it's effective how St. George does it. They simply have a 10 sign that they put at the major intersections. So, if we put one, actually at this Thomaston intersection, of 73, Road 1 going on to 131.
Yeah.
Then you can put one at the end of Buttermilk Lane.
So you're thinking more of a sign that says sign up as opposed to today's the cleanup day?
Yeah, I alert people that it's coming up.
Right,
you
okay,
know, And, communication with the town population is actually challenging. I thought a lot of people were on the distribution list, but it turns out it's not that many. And, so then obviously, trying to do something at Guilford Butler where, there are a lot of people going. And, they may not do if the older people may not do it themselves, but if they have younger folks meeting with them,
Right.
they can communicate it, so,
You put it on the server too, right?
yeah.
well, I mean, we went over some of what the obvious things are and then trying to get it done, but the point of putting out visual impact on the roads to trying to get people. One of the, I don't want to forget this, one of the things that we brought up is trying to get a contact number, that's basically somebody volunteering to put their phone number out there. Yeah, right, we'll talk with that when I have a way to blackmail somebody.
Use the server list.
I think she mentioned just a couple of hundred people, I thought it was much more than that.
Oh, couple of hundred.
Well, I mean, if you got three and they brought a couple people, we've increased it by 10% right there, so I mean, the. What it takes to increase participation isn't a whole lot in the sense of numbers,
Yeah.
but I really like your idea that I'm trying to figure out how I can get my hands on 2 rented sandwich signs and how many words you can fit on it. Cause I think it's a very good idea.
We may want to say, it would be a good purchase for the town at large, because, we have an event, some other events might happen for, helping.
Yeah.
For the trails or helping with the tennis courts, if you can publicize just, there is the sign. Out there right now telling you when the select board
Right.
meeting is.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's only there, and I never drive this way because I live on Dublin, so, I go to Rockland.
Right,
And, I don't see it, so it would be nice to have it also. By the Red Schoolhouse, I'm sure the Historical Society would be fine too,
Oh, yeah, that'd be-
yeah.
yeah,
To widen it out a bit. What we were talking about last time that I'd really like to pursue is getting into more streets, more neighborhoods, and having neighborhood teams like on Waterman's Beach or Dublin or Grierson or whatever, and reaching out to specific people that we think might be willing to be an organizer just for their neighborhood.
Mhm.
That way. I don't think if we just put up signs and say, feel free to contact us. That we're as likely to get actual hits as if we reach out to specific people. And say, do you think you, or do you know somebody in your neighborhood? Are there a few of you who could be a team for
I'm
cleanup?
happy to do it for Spruce Head and the village.
I think the use of your word, the word neighborhood is if we don't just call it. Or clean up roadside, clean, it's the fall neighborhood cleanup day, if that's the way that you word
That
it.
could be.
Yeah, I mean, it gets, it at least starts them thinking that way. I mean, it isn't as if we're smarter than everybody else in town, and if somebody else sees it and starts thinking neighborhood, they'll be.
Yeah, I mean, I live on Dublin, and on Dublin, you have, Snow Hill Lane and you have Browns Road, and those two are essentially private roads,
Right.
and they are clean. Because it's only the residents who
Right.
get to drive there. So,
I hate to say this, but I keep going back to this, buttermilk is the worst
Yeah.
of everything, it's almost, I would rather have.
oh, in Dublin, I'm telling.
Well, no, and buttermilk would be one, and there we'd need a specific.
Probably, I think you do 6 people in buttermilk.
Yeah,
And actually have it so you wait till you meet,
Yeah.
because I don't think you get the whole thing done, and it's always
Yeah.
so much there.
Yeah.
I mean, even Spruce Head, I can do it, I could almost do that road myself.
There's always a lot just outside of the village on 73 headed
For St. George,
no, heading to the gig.
Oh.
I don't know, I never go down, rarely go down the, towards St. George, once in a while I go down to Clark Island. Have to go to the restaurant down there once in a while.
Pricey.
Oh, Lord, yes, you can't afford to eat out anymore. But,
But that's, I think that's. a good idea.
there's always a lot of trash there, when you leave the village and come down. On the flat there between
Mhm.
coming down the hill from the
Yeah,
village and up Godfrey's Hill and along by the,
well, that could be
By
one, that could be one.
by-
And you might have more than one team on Spruce Head.
All right, so one thing I'm hearing is if it's on
Well,
this
that
table,
was what I said.
at the table, there's like the identification of 4 or 5 trouble areas, Buttermilk being the longest of them. If you put, if when we start letting people know what this is, the neighborhood thing is, do we want to say, these are the areas we want to clean up?
We'll say neighborhood and Buttermilk.
Do you want to,
Yes, it's all-
neighborhood team to go work on this, to work on that?
And if people wanna suggest ones we haven't thought of, tackle that too.
Right,
Yep.
or just go off and do something that wasn't even on the
And
list,
actually,
but,
we've only had two, no, maybe,
but no.
the only one that really wasn't successful at all was the rainy, well, it was, we had quite a bit, it was a
Right.
rainy day.
yeah,
But the other ones, there weren't that many people, but there were people, there were like 10, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we'd like to have more than that, but it wasn't like it was a bust. You know, I took a lot of truck rides there.
so overall, if you look at it as trying to get across the neighborhood or team aspect.
Yeah.
And then the aspect, do we want to spec and think along these lines that we're gonna give them options for assigned areas?
Yeah,
You know what really helps on the long term is pushing back the sides, as John's doing. Making these roads more walkable, because where people walk, they will pick up.
Pick up.
Yeah.
They pick up as a given.
Yeah, you can't, I
Because
do,
you
yeah,
walk by that trash and you get,
yeah, if you're not the guy that threw it out, you pick it up, right?
if you have a lot of walkers, they pick it up
one good thing.
and make well, yes. Where there are a lot of walkers, the roadside is much cleaner, but so many places in this town are not safe to walk on the side of the road.
I wouldn't say buttermilk is safe to walk.
Buttermilk is very.
Like buttermilk isn't safe to do anything on.
I got,
Someday that road is good. I mean, it's a major thing, but that road is,
yeah, I'd like to think we had the power to parlay our roadside cleanup into having sidewalks and bike lanes.
Well, no, but as a long-range plan, as something that we're working toward, that
Community
we'd like
development, right?
to keep the select board thinking about.
sidewalks, we just need space.
Yeah,
I mean, the bushes are pushing you into the road, there's no edge there for bikes or people.
right,
It also makes it a lot easier to clean up, you know, because on Island Road. Last year, a lot of brush was cut.
Yeah,
It's so much easier to clean up this year.
Okay.
the consensus is that we, in the thought, the thinking that we put into it, we want to consider getting a list of places that we'd like to see people go.
I know, it's a
Okay, all
good
right,
idea,
all right.
very good idea.
Okay, well, to be
Maybe
continued.
we could just have like 5, 5,
Yes,
and then you must, and actually, rather than people just going and doing it, you're right, saying, please sign up for this, we need X amount of people for this, X amount of events.
all right, so,
You know,
well, it's, the reason this is important, it is the way that it gets promoted. And promoting it is it's not so much a free for all out in town, it's assigned areas, which allows for a higher degree of safety. to the
Well, we
point.
could maybe make a big poster and do a sign up, 2 weeks before, like at, have actually sign up, this is where, and then.
Right,
I'm tempted with my number, and I don't mind giving my number, it's just I'm not wedded to my phone like people are, like I don't have it right now and I won't have it tonight.
well, you're smiling, you know, so.
I just don't, I mean, I answer,
No,
I always make a joke and say, here I am answering in a timely fashion, like a day and a half later, and I'll get your message.
I've been able to say that in a couple months, so.
But it'd be nice to have a sign up and then, and with maybe sign up with
Okay.
numbers.
It just depends on the way we start thinking about this, because
Yeah.
we really need to make a decision what we're gonna push at the next meeting, and it has to happen
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Okay. When are we thinking of doing this?
What's, I'm
In
thinking,
October,
yeah, late September, October.
so we have a little time.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
I think that's enough on this.
That's-
Okay.
Um, on the forest preserve, we just have some updates. Some of you know some of these, some of you don't. Um, survey's done. We were really lucky because Jeff Smith had a preliminary survey, which was practically there, and they just had to add in Klein's bits. It was still $12,000,
That's what that was my question. How much did it end up costing?
a little over 12,000.
Wow.
And I would like to spend a little more money and get in-ground monuments marking the corners and the places on the survey so that permanently, so that, you know, somebody doesn't knock it over and it's gone. They're so easy to lose.
Permanent markers, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, I don't know what that would cost, but I think it'd be well worth it.
What would permanent markers be?
Well, generally speaking, when you're talking off in the woods these days, they think of pipe with a metallic cap.
Yes.
And it tells you about, you know, I mean, it doesn't tell you about where, it tells you exactly where it is on the deed, and you can take a metal detector up there and find it extremely easily.
But can it be removed, you know? as-
Anyway,
A tree can be cut down and a blaze can be cut on another tree. I mean, somebody can mess around with any property marker.
This might be silly, but we have all those big, I don't mean a huge granite thing, but we have a whole bunch of, up by the stump dump, big pieces of granite, not that you could move one size of the
Yeah.
table, but I think there's maybe smaller one, I don't know.
If you can get them there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the key. I'd
I'm
love
not talking about
to
the huge.
walk the property, you know, given the survey in hand with the markers that we read from the survey. Are we able to find the corners ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
Like that.
When I started owning, forest land, I've been told by every forester I've ever talked to, every landowner should walk their
Yeah.
property once a year. You should walk your line, and then you really have it
Yeah.
in your,
So when they did the survey, they didn't put those rods in.
They
I'm not sure
have
what they
some-
put in.
I was looking at the survey and, you know, they go with, okay, along here, you have stone walls, so, you know, you have like indication. I looked at, one point, there is a coordinates, so GPS, and that gives you a, you know, good marker right there. And then, you know, found a pipe, so they found some markers, but I just don't know how visible they are. Because, I had walked with Jeff, Smith, and he said, oh, here is a marker, and I couldn't see anything, but he could see it, you
Search
know.
profile.
Yeah, and it's like, so I really want to, do what you're saying, you know,
Yeah,
walk it so that we can know.
Well, if we have GPS coordinates,
Not everywhere, I don't think, you know, that's what I was looking.
can they
It's like,
add them?
well, you know, to me, that would be common sense when they do surveys these
Right.
days, you know.
Yeah.
give a
Points
coordinate
of
on-
interest.
Yeah. But I don't think they are on the survey. There are only a few that I saw, and it's like,
And when they do the coordinates, they have very precise equipment to do it. They set up separate antennas.
All right,
Yeah.
kind of sort of requested the Conservation Commission is to, establish that people are aware of what physically things are.
yes.
I'm trying to come up with the terminology, because we want to make sure that the town has a record that is understandable on what the new coordinates are. Okay.
well, the deed description has all the distances and the directions.
Right,
And where things are in what do they call it, minutes and
right,
so forth.
yeah, seconds, yeah.
Angles and minutes and things.
But sometimes it's like 500 feet from the culvert. And that the culvert is itself 2 feet wide, so, you know, from the middle of the culvert, you know, one end.
Beginning of the 2 feet or the middle of the 2 feet?
But when they put the pin in, it's on the precise,
Corner.
but the thing is
And that's-
nowadays.
That's the point that's on the table right now. Do we want to request that the town expend money to actually put pins?
Well,
in the
it's not
boundary?
necessarily the town expending money. I mean, we, we're sort of in charge of what should be done.
Oh, I don't-
We'll be making the recommendations. It's not exactly a request, it's more
Yeah, so,
recommending
Okay.
that the money we're raising, part of it be used to the extent it hasn't already been done to provide
Permanent.
permanence.
Okay.
What is there now? Just a thing with a little flag on it? or
I
something?
haven't been out to look,
I don't know.
Well, they put the
but
pin in the ground with the, and they they
Oh, they'll put-
flag stuff near it
They'll
so
put
that you
red
can
rocks
find it.
around it, they'll do all kinds of.
well, it's all very nice, and I know that the guy who
But the thing,
comes in and mows our
yeah,
back lot regularly knocks them over.
well, the thing is that nowadays, with the equipment they have, they don't do lines of sight. So you can't necessarily walk on the line. It used to be.
You can see the
clear-
blazes
you
where you
cleared it,
cut
so
down the
you can see
saplings.
from one thing to another, but they don't do it that way anymore. I mean,
and right now it's not a good time unless you want to be devoured by ticks and stuff.
and you can't see anything
Yeah,
because all
so
the
in the
leaves are out.
fall, you know, clearly
You wanna-
after the leaves.
When the leaves go off the trees, it's much easier to.
But overall, do we wanna move this one along? I mean.
I don't
make
think
the
we need to
request?
take any specific action
Okay.
right now.
Well, the action I'd like to take is make sure we get the survey in digital form. You know,
Okay, well, that's just a request to the surveyor.
yeah, so who's going to do it?
What have they presented us with?
Well, that's, you know,
Printed survey, but it's like a big.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I
So
have-
like when you walk, you know, as opposed to, you know, if you have it on your phone.
well, it's,
So your impression is that it is not marked out?
I'm sorry, what?
That
The cost,
you started out this conversation saying you would request having the boundaries marked.
No.
You know,
No.
Principal corners.
the principal corner.
They are
And are we saying
marked
that's not-
somehow, but not necessarily in a form that isn't vulnerable to getting knocked over and removed.
Okay.
They don't necessarily bury in the ground markers of the corners.
So,
And if that's an extra expense, I think it's worth it.
but I think we should,
They
you
put
know,
those-
walk first, make sure,
Yeah.
so that we can describe.
So we
this thing.
don't, exactly, we don't need to decide exactly what we want until fall when we can
Oh, just
actually
like wooden stake.
look on site.
Person should be
Well, you
talking.
wanna table this discussion until
Person should be talking.
September?
Not too.
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, I know.
right now, I'm not asking for actions, all we're trying to do is update you folks on where things are. Not necessarily asking you to leap into action and make any big decisions, just an update, it's what we were aiming at.
Okay.
And, you know, identifying when, for example, in the fall, it would be good to try and check this out. Okay, donations. Again, I'm not sure how, whether you all know or what, but the select board did send another letter, which Hannah sent me a day or so ago, and I haven't had time to read, but basically, I had sent them a draft letter to the people who had donated, asking their permission to repurpose the donation from paying for the land, which we don't need anymore. So that went out, and I gather all but one have responded and said, that's fine. So that's great. So what I don't have yet is, so how much money does that give us?
The one has not responded or responded, they didn't want to repurpose.
No, I don't know. I think there's one that hadn't responded, but that was a while ago. By now they may have. So, and then I'm proposing to send another letter. And if it just gets posted on the website and goes out to the 200 people on the mailing list, I wish there was a way to get things distributed to the whole town, but doing mailings is extremely expensive. Anyway, one way or another, I will write another request to the whole town saying, okay, here's where we are. we are approved provisionally for the grant for the entire purchase price. But there's a bunch of stuff we have to do, bless you, to actually nail down and get that grant. And they all cost money. So that's what we need help with. And jumping down to number 4, next steps. The key ones are appraisal and clearing title and getting title insurance and the environmental hazards assessment and then cleanup that assessment finds we need. And a 10-year management plan for which we're going to need a forester's analysis and report. And I haven't figured out yet what roughly that totals to, but it's almost approaching real money.
Is there, so there isn't any way we could come up with a goal, a number then, that you could do something like, you know, how people put up these, like, out in front of here, you know, with the,
Yeah, no, that is my goal. That is my intention, is to
but
estimate the costs of all this and say how much money we need to raise. Bearing in mind that there is $20,000 in a reserve fund for us. But it would be nice if some of this could be from donations. Because this is just the beginning. We are gonna have ongoing expenses for trails, for the access roads, for signage, for, and really looking ahead for next year's budget. I want to propose that we have a line item in this Conservation Commission account for ongoing expenses for the preserve. That,
No, that's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, it takes the question of support right off the table, because you can see what it is.
well, yeah, it would be nice if we didn't have to be constantly in a position of begging for enough money to take the next step.
Right.
If it was understood that this is costing money and the town is behind us.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, they have got this entire deal for free.
I know.
Yeah.
And that is huge.
Yeah, and overall, if this effort is successful, you know, 15 years, 8 years, 15 years down the road, there's gonna be costs associated with doing it. It'd be nice to have it be a discrete budget as opposed to 98% of the Conservation Commission's budget.
Even when it's done, there's maintenance.
There's
Yeah.
maintenance and there's,
Yeah.
Al's head was saying that they end up having to deal with storm damage, for example, and other, you know, unpredictable events.
Yeah.
a microburst that lays down a half an acre of trees.
We have selectmen's wives and property owners at the table. Well, yeah,
Right.
expected, not something that's unexpected.
Right, okay, the last thing that you all know, if you were at the town meeting, were you all at the town meeting? No, you were
Yes, I
not.
was, yes.
Catherine was in Colorado. Anyway,
Oh, you-
At times I wished I was in Colorado during that.
Oh,
meeting.
I was so depressed after that meeting, but not for our reasons.
No,
Moving along.
yeah, moving along.
John's,
Thank you.
I think to John's astonishment, I mean, talk about, he hasn't even gone 180, he's gone, I don't know. From saying, oh, well, they've always used ATVs, we can't make them stop, to, I want them off every scrap of town land. I'm writing an ordinance and I'm proposing it, and then Henry thinks one person voted against.
Yeah, I was surprised. Actually.
I was like, were they awake? Do they know what they agreed to? Anyway, so that's
I
the
don't know,
real,
that comes up again.
I've seen-
Remember we voted in 2 years ago, we're gonna revisit.
I've actually seen that vote in 2 other towns when I used to live in New Hampshire, and it was essentially the same result.
Mhm.
A lot of trepidation.
Yeah.
Uh,
I haven't seen anything.
But, you know, at 95% in favor of restrictions, right?
In terms of the state though, is trying to get some areas open to ATVs, but
They are,
Well, they can be
I
somewhere
filled out
else.
questionnaires that I thought was gonna be about how can we protect ourselves, and then suddenly at the end of it, it's like, these people are pushing it, things for ATV trails and stuff.
Yeah.
For opening your land to ATVs, are they out of their minds? They ever see a road after they played with it on the with the ATVs?
Or it wasn't even there before they started, right?
Oh,
Okay, so that's,
So,
that takes care of the preserve, I think. Were you gonna say something, Henry?
no, I'm done, yes.
All right. So. The water quality monitoring. Are you here to report?
Well.
Is that what
it's-
they
It's
handed you?
ongoing, yeah, I have, this is the meter right here because Theo will not be around for the next one. But, you know, we've had, I believe, 3 already and, it's going every 2 weeks. It's, going really without a hitch.
Good,
Great. Um. For our records and looking ahead to next year's annual report, I may need to talk to you and Theo or whatever to get some concrete details about, you know, what you're doing, who you're working with. Are you looking to expand in ways where we want resources that we don't have? And specifically, I want to be sure that we have complied with the requirement not to go on anybody's land unless we have written permission from them.
Yeah, basically, this is all done from the roadside. you know.
Right, but there was one that you were using somebody's parking area.
Yes, and when, I don't know if Theo is, when she does it, whether she's still doing that. I was parking on the road by the culvert when we.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't arise.
It,
excellent.
it doesn't arise for me.
From you.
And yeah, I'm not, you know, Wes and I will be doing it next week. And so he'll be with me then and I'll talk to him about it. So.
Okay,
Do you get to see the results
No.
of the testing?
No, I think possibly Theo and Wes may
Okay.
see those results, but we don't.
So that we know, okay, you're
The
collecting
volunteers.
the water, but then, you know, it would be nice to have, okay.
Yes.
They are checking this and this and this from this water, and this is the evolution of the data.
Mhm.
You know, so that we have at least something to give the town, as, you know,
Mhm.
how did that benefit the town, you know?
well,
So,
I would think we'd be entitled to
yes,
know the results.
Yeah, I'm sure we are entitled, it's just a question of what, you know, what is the format, you know, what is, you know, I'm sure there's a place we can go online to see not
What
only
is-
our results, but all the other places in the state and see it.
But if you go online with our results, could you see our results separately, or are they gonna be aggregated?
I think every site is separated.
At least
So
for water.
because it doesn't make any, because it
Right,
doesn't,
right, okay,
even in an individual watershed, they would have to be segregated because each stream is so vastly different.
right.
You know, as to the results, the
Okay, so-
salinity, the oxygen.
So if need be, I'll work with you guys to pursue that,
Yeah.
because I do want to be sure we're
I
getting
think
the
West
results.
probably,
And then not just the results, but what are they used for? What can they be used for?
Mhm.
And are we getting all the important, are we capturing all the important information?
Well, we're capturing the information that, you know, the DEP wants us to capture.
Right.
Whatever that is,
There's
but
a, and we're getting water samples as well as the data for, you know, oxygen and conductivity and salinity. And the water sample is, I believe, just used to test for E. coli or, you know, for bacterial contamination.
Do they perhaps test for PFAS?
That is a very expensive test, and I don't know if the test, you know, whether that's available or not, but they're not now. And from, sorry. I come, I previously lived in Central Maine and that's where PFAS, first came to light. And it was a big deal testing for it because it was so expensive to test. And so it's a question of who will be doing that testing.
Right, I suppose they could do, like, if somebody who maybe has mapped the state of where sludge was spread. Um, and then follow up with the streams near those places.
Then I would think that would make sense. I don't know how much how much in this area they did spread sludge. Most of it either came from like paper plants or sewer system, the water.
Well, no, a lot of it, farmers were encouraged to use it as fertilizer.
Exactly, right.
And then
Right, but that
runoff from their land is poisoning wells and the watershed. So, and it's not, even if it's expensive, it may not be, there may be some kind of, because it was the state that urged farmers to do that, that I think they probably have, or could be made to acknowledge an obligation to pay whatever it takes to assure people that they're not.
I'm pretty certain there have been fairly large funds set up to.
Right. So maybe that's, sorry.
I think there have been funds set up by the state to help compensate those farmers.
Oh, yeah,
Many of them are
compensate
very sad
farmers.
cases where these are organic farmers trying to do
Oh, I know.
everything correctly and.
I've got a fat file on all this appalling stuff, but
But that may be, we may want to consider doing that as a separate issue entirely from, what.
Well, the
from
health
water sampling
officer,
that you
this,
see is the-
was it this past spring? I mean, run, an offer to have your water tested, give you a sample and you pay the reduced fee to have all these tests done. You didn't get that done?
Yes, but
It
I don't
wasn't
think
PFAS.
PFAS was part of that.
it was not PFAS.
No,
Yeah, we did get it done.
And we do too.
Just things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, and we may even be able to think about that for the town, there's some way, if we want to explore that further. And.
I mean, to me, this is an issue that may come actually as part of the resiliency group work. What's happening to the water table? Is it rising? Is it getting more saline, and to me, that's part of addressing climate change. I'm having issues with my well. I'm on a low point and my water is getting murkier, like the filtering, I need to change my filter so much more often. And so, they are going to come trying to raise the pump because I don't know if the water level, is
Right.
just too high right now. And so there are all kinds of issues coming with the weather we're having that, didn't used to be there. People, to me, it's like I would be surprised if anybody runs with a dry well because the rain has been so intense, at times that.
these larger than what was ever normal here, rain events are, it's messing with the water table and the wells.
Yeah,
So,
there's a saturation happening and then you wonder, if actually the water table may be infiltrated at some point with salty water and whatever, so.
I don't know.
But that's why I'm thinking, is it our job or is it something that falls under the resiliency committee?
Well, some of that comes under the heading under new business, because I think it's not either or. I think there's a large area where our missions overlap. And I don't think it's only a resilience issue if the water's being poisoned. I think it's a conservation issue as well.
Mhm.
And the water sampling group has, we've had people from DEP several times visit us this year. and we could, talk to them about it. And can we, what is the PFAS situation, and can we add this to it, or is it reasonable? Are you looking at different types of water sources for PFAS contamination? Are you just looking at wells, are you looking at running water? I'm not exactly sure where, the PFAS contamination.
But they'll probably tell you they hate the PFAS people because they're sucking up 70% of their budget. Because this is the one the state is really paying attention to, because there's a huge amount of money involved in it.
Okay,
I'll
well,
talk to Western people.
okay, so I will follow, my copious spare time, I will follow up with the water quality group and just try and get some clear, detailed information on what all's being done, and what's being done with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the dark sky program.
No,
What? Did I miss something?
Seafood.
No, dark sky and then Maine Coast Seafood.
Number D.
Ah, didn't get an
Oh, okay, this,
updated one, maybe?
The draft and the final were a bit different, so, yeah,
What I have is the draft, I guess.
oh, that could be. The dark sky. I sent you all John Noor's summary of what they're proposing to do, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is they would like to know if we're able to provide some volunteers for stuff they'll need for the program, including publicity in advance and setting up and probably tearing down. They're going to be using, I think, the Transportation Museum. And they've asked if some people could help them set up chairs for that event, that kind of thing. So,
is there a specific date?
not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Not yet, so that, right,
Your impression it would take place in the evening?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'm just, I
And
mean,
they said they were looking at late August, early September.
yeah, I'm getting into heaven by folding up the chairs in the municipal situation. I'm halfway there. 100,000 of
So
them, you know?
I think I can tell them that if they can get, when they can give us a date, we can see who's available, but surely,
Yeah, if it's in the evening, I'm happy to do something like that.
thank you. I'm glad they're, actually moving ahead with something. And then Maine Coast Seafood is on just because if you weren't at the last select board meeting, you may not have heard that they are moving ahead. They have authorized, I guess, Terry as CEO to set in motion, taking them to court, that we're going to be suing. So that's sort of,
I spoke with Terry before the meeting,
mm,
and she said that they had filed a notice of violation. But they just weren't getting any response. And
Right.
So at the last meeting, took the next step.
right,
So
but
in the
if,
meantime, the garbage is still,
The garbage is still in the water.
Still floating away. It doesn't stay there.
Yeah, but it's
Some of
amazing.
it leaves every.
Every high
it's
tide.
appalling.
It's appalling. It's just appalling.
I wonder if
nobody
there's
has a vote, that, I mean, is it like very heavy stuff? I mean, I
Some
don't.
machinery, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, pieces, yeah, pieces of, large pieces of wood that could
Damage the
really
boat.
damage your boat if you ran on it at speed.
Yeah,
Uh,
wow, so that's definitely a hazard, yeah.
definitely hazards, pouring out of there.
But
And it's,
the town's utilized its next option of behavior. It's done what it can so far, and then it's up to the court system after that.
Is
Is,
this privately held or who owns this?
who are the, yeah,
who
who's
are they?
there now? I mean, did they just walk away
No,
from
they
it?
live in, they're part of the, what's that famous restaurant in Boston? Legal Seafood.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
They
It's part of it, there's like three.
And they make such a big thing about we are so environment
Well,
friendly.
there are three.
They ought to be
brothers.
shamed into.
I think they've kind of forgotten it being there. I
Department
love to
was-
have the
We
town.
might know.
I hope that's the next step. We can, somehow the town can get that. I'd love to have that.
Yeah, it'd be a nice legal
That'd be
settlement,
real
you know.
nice,
kinda
I want that ramp that's hanging there.
like- You got your eye on Jetsam, do you? Where's that floatsam? It's one of them, you know?
So, I mean, take them to court, if they don't respond, the town eventually puts.
I think
This
that's
could
a good
take-
way, yeah.
I actually
Yeah,
know
but
the
it- you know-
definition of flotsam and jetsam.
Yeah, one is thrown over on purpose, one is, I can't remember which is which.
Jetsam ought to be what's thrown. And
Yeah,
flotsam
It's
is what
jet,
floats.
it's
Jettison's
jettison,
out.
it's jettison. Yeah.
Jettison's, exactly. But
Oh, look, we turned into an educational program. Good, this is good.
You can always learn something.
Yeah.
well, I do almost every time. What I'm wondering is whether there's, because legal action can take forever, whether there's a way that the town could clean it up and send legal seafood the bill. No, is there some? I don't know. I simply don't know what options are there, but having it sit for a couple of years while they go through the courts doesn't sound very.
Like, I'm interested in getting the property, and I'm wondering if suing is the best way to start. Like, we're suing you, but we'd really be interested in buying it. That's relevant. We're suing you first. I don't know.
I think the town should,
I don't think we need to make nice. They behave very badly.
Yeah.
No, I'm just interested in the land. I think it'd be a real cool for our town to have that waterfront. We have very little waterfront access in our town.
yes, and that is real access. It's
It
not
sure
up an
is.
unmarked mile
It's the other side of the road too. It's a, that's a big piece of property.
yeah, it's the.
The house that's fallen
What,
down.
ocean front's valuable? Ocean front's valuable?
Yeah.
Well, the retreat's 20 miles inland.
Right.
Gee, I wish we could pursue this.
Mhm.
Well, they are, I mean.
No, I'm just saying, going to court is a way to spend a lot of time paying lawyers.
Yeah, I know, but it could take years.
Yeah,
I mean, if you consider something an emergency situation, many. You could take action and try to recover, but that involved considerable amount of money up front.
Right.
I was wondering why we didn't somehow fiddle with the idea, are they willing to sell it, at least get an idea of that before we sue them, but
well, and what would we use for money to buy it?
I don't know.
And maybe instead, we could say,
Expropriation.
you could give us the land
We'll let
in
you off the hook.
settlement
Let you
of
off the
this,
hook, yeah.
yeah.
We'll stop suing you, just give.
I will say that
Yeah.
all of this conversation is not the official position of the town.
Not
It's
yet,
collaborative.
Henry, just right.
It's collaborative. I look at it, the selectmen are doing everything that they legally can at this present time.
I don't know.
I'm going out to dinner with one of those select.
Yes,
See if I can, I'm gonna see you.
have a bit of a conversation about what other remedies there are, like you are creating a nuisance and a hazard and you're not responding and
I'm not sure when this.
Generally, a trash and junk situation in a small municipality takes about 2 years.
Here it says
If they have the money to fight it, you know what I mean? If the property owner wants to stall it, it can take 2 years.
I really get the feeling, I mean, it hasn't even been really officially used for a long time. I know people have gone in there, but have they been paying rent?
Yeah, fishermen are.
No, it was functioning, it was a functioning buying station at the end of last season.
Then the
Really?
storm came in.
And there's still,
Then weren't they paying?
fishermen are getting diesel on it.
Was Jameson using it? Was he?
Yeah, but
he
you don't
paying
pay, you don't pay to use,
I don't know, I thought.
wait, you have lobsters and they buy them.
Right.
Nobody was working out of that building.
Yeah, they were.
Well, they had to have people there tending the fishermen.
Okay, so if somebody just used that and they don't have to pay anybody for that?
No,
I
that
don't
was their
understand
business.
what you mean.
It was their
It's a
business.
building.
You don't have to
No.
pay anybody when you walk into the store.
No, but somebody owns that building, obviously.
Yes,
And were people working?
and they're in the business, yes, they have employees, and they're in the business
But
of
they are
buying
not working
lobsters, of
anymore.
buying lobsters.
And these,
No, they're not right now, but this is,
I know,
they're in the business of buying lobsters from the fishermen,
okay, yeah,
and that's how they make their,
okay. I
Yeah.
guess
So
I guess I
do
don't.
do
Selling
the
fuel.
the buyers, the people who were employed to buy the lobsters, they were obviously employed by the company in Massachusetts.
That's
So
what
do
I
we
said.
know who they are? Can we contact them to see if
That's
they're
who
being
they're
laid
being-
off or if, you
And
know,
that
I
means
have-
suing?
I have no idea who was working there, but I bet if, I could get their names from my grandson who was selling lobsters there last summer.
so that we,
Wouldn't that be the owners, no?
What?
Wouldn't
Yeah,
that
that
be the
should
owners?
be, I would think it.
No, that's right,
Uh,
wouldn't that be the owners?
No.
no, no. this
No,
is
the
a
owners
big
are
company.
often Massachusetts,
Yeah, I know, okay.
They had,
running a restaurant business. And
Multiple
they have
restaurants.
employees, or they had employees.
they had to have had at least a couple of people, they couldn't have functioned with less than.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the honor is just
Taking
to make
lobster
your
and
lobsters just-
paying fishermen.
I think it would be worth finding out whether those people have been let go by the company, in which case it signifies that the company is kind of abandoning totally the
I
site.
can find out.
So another direction to look at.
All right, you're a year and a half, right now, you're a year and a half into the legal case right now, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If it goes to court and this is the way it goes, this is about halfway through it, the discussion you're having right now.
But no, at this point.
Where do we get the evidence to blame anybody? This really isn't our
John, wait a minute,
responsibility.
John was
It's not our
Henry,
responsibility.
John was trying to say
Do
something.
you remember probably 2 years ago when we had the road widening project?
Yeah.
There,
Yes.
they were making a big, the owners, I'm assuming it was the owners, they were making a big deal of the fact that the widening of the road was going to take a couple feet of the project, so they were available then, so whoever the city, the South Thomas Road people were dealing with them may have, they must know who they were dealing with.
South Thompson Road, it was John.
John,
Or Jerry Pearson, but he's been gone for a year.
yeah, because they were real stick in the mud, they didn't want
I
us
do
to.
remember that, I do
You know,
remember that,
the-
yeah.
I thought most of the trouble there was with the homeowners on the other side of the road
Same people.
that didn't want the,
Blasting and stuff.
they didn't,
Oh, yes, that's the
they
last.
didn't want anything,
Okay,
didn't run
well,
the
I'll find out a little bit
road
more
change.
Yeah.
I
tonight.
mean,
But I just remember them causing problems with where they wanted to put the road.
But for the last 6 months, it's been pretty much empty. People aren't working there, but I can see that.
not since the storm.
No. Yeah.
Okay,
We
That was
started
good.
in December, last December.
Right.
December 23 was the first storm, and then there was one in January, and one in February.
Made the news.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so more exploration to occur.
mhm. Yes, yes.
And then new business, as I sent you the resilience committees working with St. George on getting a shared sustainability coordinator. And this was, I put it on the agenda mainly to like get your attention. Start making you aware that when you look at the scope of work, there is overlap with things that we would have, that I would consider part of the Conservation Commission's mission. Which suggests to me that, and I've had a preliminary talk with Neil Cambridge, who's their chair. That somehow we need to coordinate. We just, at this point, we need to explore how we could work together so that whatever decisions they make, or they're talking about, and it's part of what I sent you, coming up with an action plan. And that we have a voice somehow, so that it's not just they're doing their thing in their silo and we're off in our silo. I think
So
we
it's
need
not a
to
surprise
coordinate.
what they decide.
Yeah,
I was always surprised that there were two. And every time I say that to people, they say, oh, well, you're supposed to be doing this, and you're supposed to be doing that over there, but it's all part of the same subject.
yes, exactly. And I'm surprised at how many of the local towns have two that seem to be stumbling along in the dark, not knowing what the other's doing. Rockport's the only one I know for sure has both of them in the Conservation Commission. And not coincidentally, I think Rockport is the one that seems to be making the most progress. So I'm not sure.
But
So
they're
what are you
experts,
asking?
I am not asking anything. I am simply bringing it to your attention to be thinking about, to start thinking about where, as you read the paper that I sent you, it strikes you that, oh, that goal is
Similar to our goal.
exactly. I mean, they really can't, you can try and say, well, they're on
Mhm.
resilience and sustainability, and we're on trying to save the planet,
Mhm.
and how are they not the same thing?
Well, that's what I said from the beginning, but if anyone's interested, there's a meeting, Friday the 19th at 4 o'clock.
Okay,
The resilience committee, where, at the,
At the,
Go for that one.
and Meg Rasmussen will be there, Meg Rasmussen will be there.
not necessarily,
not necessarily, it's probably, yeah.
they
I
are
don't-
looking to hire her as the path of
She's
least
been at the last two
resistance,
meetings.
so they're not really
I
considering
read-
anyone else.
I read that paper and it read like a big managerial,
Yeah,
template.
Yeah.
That's the way I saw it,
A lot of buzzwords.
Yeah, buzzword, the planning, you do this, you do that, but the substance of it is still lacking. It's like, all these actions are wonderful, but what do you actually action on? And to me, we are back to which areas should they focus on? Establish a priority list, so right now, I don't know, it's like my thinking has been like the water table, the aquifer to me is important to deal with. But, how are they going to decide what to focus on? Having those meetings still at Guilford Butler where a few people showed up and people don't have the technical knowledge or the scientific knowledge. And so to me, it's like shooting in the dark almost. And it's like, we're talking about possibly raising $100,000 to pay somebody and, somebody to just coordinate. And I would think, I would want to hear from scientists first about, what are the issues that we have to deal with? I don't know.
I'm not sure. You're right. They have their eye on $100,000 grant. I think shared between the two towns. So once again, it's like, low hanging fruit. We can do this for free. Hopefully, if they get the sustainability coordinator, part of her job would be to bring in the scientists and help us as a town figure out what's
Because,
the
they talk
priority.
about the buying into from the town is essential, but buying into what? And that's the key. It's like to me, that's what's totally missing.
Mhm. Yes. No argument.
That's what I got out of it.
Okay, good, I'm not crazy.
Right. But what I worry about is that they'll be the official voice on all this. And they'll be making decisions in the same strange way that they made decisions on the solar, because really, when they talk about having information sessions for the town or buy-in from the town, they're talking about this tiny handful of people who came to Guilford Butler on a Saturday and were handed, I know, because I went, this questionnaire which trapped you into, these are your only choices. Which of these, which would never be the ones you would have wanted, which of these shall we go
And
with?
it may
It
be
was
very important, but I think first would be having somebody, a specialist in the various areas talk to us.
Yes.
You know, and then people can assess, you know, this is really important for our town, you know, or not, and so. You know, this is what I would want to see first, and it's like, I don't want to make a decision until I've had that
I think
knowledge.
they're thinking they'll get the sustainability coordinator who will make all this other stuff happen.
Mhm.
That's
But
the-
then, since all the money in the grant is going to pay the sustainability coordinator, if you need to pay these other
Yeah,
people,
to me.
where's the money coming from?
Well,
It's
the
like,
pool of money that all of this,
no,
pool of money that all of this is based upon, I don't remember what it was, I just remember that it was a really large number. Fulfilling this position strikes me as sort of, you need to do this in order to gain access to the rest of the process. This is a sustainability coordinator that was paid for by a grant of people that are managing the grant. It's just the process by which things
And
work.
she probably has the great experience to organize things and whatever, but I'd like to hear then from her that, yes, her first step will be to get our speakers to explain the various issues.
yes.
You know, I need to know this is
well,
going
maybe
to
not
happen.
just speakers, because for me, it's in one ear and out the other. I would need papers. I would need,
Well, they can come with a
Analysis.
PowerPoint that they can make it available and stuff like that, and that's the whole thing. And,
well, okay, but
So I'm in favor of a coordinator because it's good to have a czar, and I agree that, you know, we share a lot of the same problem with St. George. So, you know, not to, you know, reinvent the wheel at every town. And, but it's like, her role, you know, and what she would actually do needs to be clarified a little more.
and I don't know how we do that.
There's a meeting on the
Yeah, I
19th
mean,
at 4
yeah,
o'clock.
you can express that. So
I wrote
that,
it
you know, there is a
down.
whole process of education that has to happen before people can, you know, decide what they.
So what it sounds like your primary concern is, will there be a bit more scientific education
Yes.
than happened in the round in which we were granted the solar panels?
Yeah, yeah,
Because some of these issues might require a slightly more subtle knowledge.
yeah.
Okay,
All right. So, again, to be continued. I'll look at my calendar and see if I can go to that meeting. Whether it will be enlightening, I don't know.
I'll be a caller.
You just made that plan?
No, I've been going for a while.
Oh,
So.
okay. So, I don't know.
Friday, the 19th.
Yes.
You're leaving when?
18th.
Getting out of Dodge.
Friday, the 19th at 4. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show up or not, because I am going to a big party starting at 2.
Depending how it goes.
Maybe yeah, that'll be a good excuse to leave the party.
Right,
And
You know, so where is that meeting advertised on the 19th?
Well, it's on the agendas and everything are on
Okay,
the server, same as ours are.
okay, but it's usually, I didn't read it because your meetings are usually on Sundays and
Well,
I
we
don't want
just,
to go
we
on
just
Sunday.
quit the Sunday thing.
Okay.
And this will be our second Friday one.
Okay,
We're on Friday afternoons at 4 now.
okay, good to know.
Good to have you as a plant.
I was thinking I was a liaison.
Liaison. Okay, well, that's what you.
Not a plant.
So you're not there lurking. Participating, okay.
I'm a
Don't do
I'm
that.
a participating, sworn in member.
I'm good, that's all, I have to go.
Okay, well. I think we're done, yes,
Yes.
without objection, meeting is adjourned at 6:05.
John, and then where are you?
That's
I'll
why,
be right back. I
that's
just
how
wanted
you
to
get
say one
people
thing.
to join this.
Leslie, it has nothing to do with the meeting.
We need
This
to.
committee. The meetings are at 5 o'clock and they're usually over by 6 or a few minutes after.
5 p.m.?
You said.
Oh, so this is for our meeting, you know, which is.
You missed the first part.
It's for any committee,
So sorry.
any organization I've ever been involved with. They
I
always
always
go
know somebody I really appreciate.
Yeah.
You got caught.
No, we have other things to do.
I told you that, didn't I? I said, we meet at 5 and we usually hold first.
No, I have to go to, no, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Going out to-
More than we've been past 6. And we've been chatting all.
The talk is in Aurora,
Off,
but
on
I
and
got
off.
invited out to give a lecture on, Reynolds, I think.
Oh, stop recording.
A nice community.
It is.
Well, I was older and.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but one of them is